can, I'm having a really hard time. It takes forever with my Wi-Fi to process these videos and upload them. So tell Nikki, if you text Nikki, tell her that I'll try and record it and try and post this later this afternoon. First things first, and I don't know if I said this to you or just to sixth period, any of you guys are concerned about Wi-Fi, let me know. The school is, if your Wi-Fi is kind of funky like mine, I've gotten kicked out of a couple of classes now. Then the school will set up a system whereby you guys can come in a specific entrance, go into a single classroom. I think you'll be alone in a classroom. You'll have the school's fairly robust Wi-Fi, and you can take the exam there. I think what's happening is, Carrie Clements is coordinating it. So she's contacting people 2 days before their exam date and saying, okay, here's the classroom you're going to be in. Here's how I want you to get into the building. So if any of you have any doubts about your Wi-Fi for the actual AP exams, I don't know how many students we could accommodate at the school. And I also don't know, if blood testing, is blood testing going to happen again? Has anybody heard? Mr. Gass mentioned something about how, well, we might not be able to, accommodate all the AP kids because we might be doing blood testing. I don't know. Anyway, so if you are concerned, a couple of people have already reached out to me, and I put them in touch with Ms. Clements, and she will follow up. You may not hear from her until 2 days before your first exam, and 2 days before each exam. What she'll do is just coordinate with you to let you know what classrooms are available, where you're going to be. I think it's a situation where you'll probably wear a mask going to the building, but then you'd be alone in the classroom, so you don't have to worry. And the classrooms have been all disinfected and stuff. Mrs. Lavender was working down there a lot over the weekend, last week, with all the scholarship stuff. And she'd go in the morning and everything would be wet because they just go in there and spray all this disinfectant everywhere. So, so if you have concerns about your Wi-Fi, go ahead and contact Miss Clemens, or let me know, and I'll put you on the list of kids who need Wi-Fi support. So Matthew, how do I turn Matthew's video off? Let me see here. I'm glad somebody's having fun. That's good. So you guys, this was not a super successful, where the heck is it? Hang on. Let me find this. Just a sec. We go here. Can you guys see this on your screens? Yeah. So here's unfortunately, I don't have, we'll look at the rubric here in a second. I don't have any scored responses. The rubric gives some, a few examples. I don't know if any of you actually guys looked that up or not. But if you get something that's not an actual speech or a letter, we've done a couple letters, we've done a couple of speeches. Again, you've got to, and I'll save this for next Wednesday, this last minute prep handout, the COVID-19 edition. But you have to keep in mind as you read the prompt, you have to keep in mind that rhetorical situation. Here we've got, Hope Jaron is writing a prologue to her memoir, Lab Girl. She's a biologist. That's kind of, so what's the rhetorical situation? This is not like Alfred Green, an African-American, speaking to a bunch of African-Americans, or Mahatma Gandhi writing to the Lord Viceroy or something. What's the purpose? So the speaker or writer in this case is a biologist who's written a memoir, Lab Girl, and she's presenting this prologue. Who are her audience? Well, her audience is potential readers, right? So what's her purpose? They talk about, why does she consider the work to be important? That's kind of off the mark. What's the purpose of a prologue? What's the goal of any writer? Well, it's to make sure that the reader keeps reading. So if you can pick up on, and I've got some more examples we'll look over on next Wednesday, but if you can keep in mind this rhetorical situation, so the writer has no sense of the audience. It's not like Claire Booth Luce or whatever her name was, the congresswoman who was addressing it, a bunch of members of a women's, banking committee or society or whatever. The audience isn't right there. A writer is writing toward an imagined audience, somebody who might be picking up this book in a library, picking up in a bookstore, and they're flipping through it and they're glancing through the prologue saying, hey, is this something I should read? So again, the goal there is to keep reading. So then you want to think, okay, the speaker writer is this woman, this biologist, Hope Jahren. The audience is an unseen potential reader who will actually pick up and read the entire book. The goal of a prologue, again, is not just to say, why the kind of work she does is she considers it to be important. Well, of course she wouldn't be doing it if she didn't consider it important. The real goal, the implicit goal, is to convince the reader to keep on reading. So then you think, okay, what's the relationship between the audience and the goal? In the case of Alfred Green trying to get African Americans to lobby to be allowed to enlist in the Union Army, well, what is that goal? What kind of obstacles are presented there? Well, he's got to get them to to set aside past grievances, or the fact that the current grievances they're not even being recognized as citizens. And so that's a rhetorical situation. So what's Green going to do to overcome those obstacles? Or maybe the relationship between the audience and the goal, or the audience, the speaker and the audience is actually advantageous. In the case of Clare Boothe Luce, this is a woman speaking to women. So she's going to use distinctly feminine tropes. She's going to talk about things that her audience and she can relate to, us girls. She's going to, emphasize the sisterhood and stuff. So what are the potential obstacles to Hope Jahren, hoping that potential readers will read through this prologue and decide to continue to read and finish the entire memoir, Lab Girl? Well, there's a couple. I'm not a scientist. I don't know anything about biology. I'm not that curious. I don't want to read a book about biology, or, and she acknowledges right from the start, why aren't I studying the ocean, instead of terrestrial plant life and stuff. So what she does is acknowledging those obstacles, how non-scientists might read a prologue and say, nah, I don't, Lab Girl, I don't want to read a book about biology. This sounds interesting. So she does a couple of things. She emphasizes, as we go through here, and a lot of guys kind of picked up on this, she emphasizes the staggering information, the fact that, the ocean is essentially lifeless, and the average plant, is just a single cell and lives for 24 hours, or 20 days, or whatever. Whereas the, trees can live, they're 2 tons, they live for hundreds of years. She talks about the staggering numbers and whatnot. So she gets us, and a lot of you guys picked up on this, she gets us curious about, about the subject. She's trying to pique our interest, and again, to keep us reading. But then the thing that not enough of you really picked up on was this direct address. She uses the second person. She actually instructs. There's this intimacy between her and her unseen reader. She's asking them to do specific things. So humor me for a minute. Look out your window. She's actually telling us to do this. And of course, she's comparing the man-made, all the things she sees out there. And then she says, but think how remarkable the plant life is. And of course, she distills down to the leaf. Now look again. She uses a second person accusative, you, and if you use accusative, that's fine or not. But this notion of direct address, creating a sense of intimacy. And then she moves on to get them to ask questions. She talks about how she asks questions. And this line here, now you ask a question about your leaf. Oh, guess what? You're a scientist. So she's overcome the obstacle of writing for a lay audience, a non-science audience, by elevating the unseen reader to the status of the scientist. And so this was kind of, and then at the end, so now that they're on equal footing, let me tell you some stories, one scientist to another. So it, hang on a second. So it's important for you guys, again, I want you to, I want to look at the rubrics here in a second. I want you to, as you read the prompt, think about this rhetorical triangle. Think about the speaker, writer, the audience, and the purpose. What are the obstacles? What are the advantages in the relationship between the speaker or writer and his or her audience? And then what's the relationship between the audience and the purpose, the speaker's goal, and what obstacles are there or what advantages are there? And so again, so when you go through and do this thing called rhetorical analysis, you're pointing out things, and you guys are doing a good job of picking out discrete quotations, not getting any more long quotations. That's great. But you're presenting this evidence, and then you're commenting on it or analyzing it in terms of the rhetorical situation, how this rhetorical strategy, which is nothing more than just trying to persuade somebody, and again, in this case, we're trying to persuade a reader to keep reading, how what she's doing helps her accomplish that goal. And if you frame your analysis in terms of the rhetorical situation, you're going to be a lot more successful. I'm not saying your responses aren't good. They're strong. Most of them are solid. Most of them are, 4s, which I imagine is going to translate into a 3 on the exam, a passing score. But I think you guys can with just a little more effort and a little more thoughtfulness, I think you guys can pretty easily get a 5 or a 6, which would I think translate into a 4 or a 5 on the exam. Questions so far? Any of that? Is this?
Wait, is only a 6 gonna translate to a 5 on the exam?
I don't know, Johnny. They haven't told us. I've got nothing. I've got no concordance between. I imagine a 4 on the exam on that 6-point scale, the new rubric. I imagine that a 4 is going to translate into a 3. I don't know if a 5 is going to be a 6. I'm sorry, if a 5 is going to be a 4 or a 5. I'm just imagining that, 4 on this is going to be a 3, a 5 is going to be a 4, and a 6 is going to be a 5, but I'm not sure. It may well be that 5s will also score a 5. But again, they just haven't been super forthcoming, I think in part because they're working so hard to figure out how to do this. My daughter was just offered a job teaching IB, International Baccalaureate, in Cuernavaca, geography. She's got, a master's in environmental science and policy. And I guess they IB canceled their exams. So I don't know. Anyway, so here's the real quick, and I'll let you guys go in a bit. I just want to meet with you guys individually, those of you who's responsive, I had a chance to score. But so here's the rubric for this, okay? Remember, there's there's 3 columns. There's 0 to 1 point, 0 to 4 points, and 0 to 1 point. The first is for row A, the thesis. You need to have a thesis. This doesn't seem to be too much of a problem for you guys, but I want to look at so the responses that do not earn that first point, almost all the responses do, only restates the prompt. Can you guys all see this? Yeah? If anybody can't see it, let me know. Fails to address the rhetorical choices the writer passage makes, describes or repeats the passage rather than making a claim. So here's a couple of examples, as close as we've got to samples, of thesis statements that do not earn that first point. Jared uses a passage to give a basic understanding of the kind of work she does and to explain why it's important. That's just kind of restating the prompt. The passage is used to show the audience that Jared's work is important. Again, just restating the prompt. Not a problem for you guys. Or maybe they make a claim but don't address the rhetorical choices. Jared uses her prompt to explain why she's more interested in the land than the ocean. And again, all you need is some sort of, you got to toss something out there by, using a direct address to the reader and, providing staggering statistics to get them curious or something. Or it just repeats information provided from the passage. According to Jaron, anyone can be a scientist. I don't think there's a problem. But look at this one. I mean, using extended parallels between human activities and the activity of nature, Jaron encourages her audience to recognize the importance of the natural processes she studies. That's closer to what most of your theses look like, and it's good. It's fine. You're throwing some stuff out there, but I prefer this one. This is because this one really kind of acknowledges in their thesis statement the rhetorical situation. I think that's going to provide you a fair amount of focus as you go ahead and develop your response. You know, make a claim, present evidence, and then explain in 2 or 3 sentences why the the language you just cited supports the observation you made at the outset. Jaron gives the reader instructions and addresses the reader as a scientist to present her work as interesting, important, accessible to the readers who don't necessarily have a scientific background. And that the reason I like that one better is because, again, it touches on the rhetorical situation. And if we cut back to the last point, 0 to 1 point, mostly, and they don't have samples here, responses that earn this point may demonstrate sophistication of thought or a complex understanding of the rhetorical situation by doing the following: explain the significance and relevance of the writer's rhetorical choices given the rhetorical situation. Explaining the 2 is bullshit. Explaining a purpose or function of passages, complexities or tensions, whatever. Or 3, employing a style that's consistently vivid and persuasive. You guys write well, and so there's a good chance you could pick up that final point in the last column just because you guys write with elegance, write with flair, and that's great. But again, to lock down that last point, it's the relevance of the writer's rhetorical choices given the rhetorical situation, given whatever obstacles or advantages are presented by the relationships between the speaker or writer and his or her audience, and the relationship between the writer and the goal, and the audience and the goal. So the middle one is just a matter of, and you guys are doing pretty well. You guys are mostly getting 3s, some of you are getting 4s in this middle one, simply because you're doing a good job of dropping discrete quotations and then talking about why. The one thing that you don't want to do is this one right here, and I ran into more of this on this response than I had in the speeches. And this is where your response is tilted more towards summary than analysis. This is the kind of response where you say, well, first Jaron does this, blah, 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 blah. And then Jaron does this, blah, 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 blah. But so you're citing stuff, but it's really more like the equivalent of plot summary on question 3 last year in Lit, where you're just saying this happened and this happened, and this happened. The writer does this, and the writer does this, and the writer does this, absent any commentary on why, what the rhetorical effect is. And remember, rhetorical effect is how is this managing to persuade an audience in the context of a rhetorical situation? How is this managing to overcome whatever obstacles might exist between the audience and the writer's ability to persuade them to go ahead and adopt the purpose or adopt the goal. So this is, I don't know how helpful this is. I don't know, is this helpful or not? Sort of. Matthew, where are all your masks?
My Wi-Fi was weird. I don't know what happened.
Okay. So anyway, we're not going to do an FRQ. It's Wednesday. You guys have 4 days to kind of mess around, get ready for Gov on Monday. What's on Tuesday? What AP exam? Does anybody have an AP exam on Tuesday?
It's calculus.
Yeah, it's
calc. AB.
Okay.
It's both calcs.
And when is calc? At noon?
Noon.
Yeah, okay.
12.
That's our noon. Okay, so nobody has an exam on Wednesday, right? So I will schedule it and I'll send out a message. We'll plan on meeting on Wednesday and doing one more FRQ. In the meantime, I would love to talk. I'm trying to think of who I've got. So let me just write this down. So what time is it? It's 10:11. So I'm going to start with Elena. This is just where you are on my screen. Why I don't have Ryder. Ryder, you can log back in at 10:20. Justine at 10:30. Danica, I haven't had a chance to score yours yet, but thanks. Jonah, Garrett, I don't have. Jonah hasn't scored yours yet. Peter, 10:40. Thomas, 10:50. Samantha, 11. And then, let me see. Johnny, do I have yours? I can't remember. Have I scored yours? I think I did. Johnny, is this going to bleed into, I was just bleeding tutorial, right? Okay. Johnny, can you make it 11:10?
Yes.
And Caden, can you make it 11:20?
Yeah.
Amber, can you make it 11:30?
Yeah.
And then Matthew, 11:40. All right. So, and then I'll see you guys. I'll see the rest of you at noon. Wiley, Garrett, Kendall. If you guys want to write something and get it to me in the next couple of days, I'll score it, we'll go over it. And Jonah and Danica, I'll get yours to you this afternoon, and we'll figure out a time to meet.
You want us to meet with you? Like, I can meet with you later today if you'd like.
Yeah, the problem is I got to get these things scanned. This tech stuff is such a pain in the butt. If we could just sit down out in the senior pod and go over your paper in 3 minutes, that'd be so nice. But those were the days. Those were the days. So let me get scanned. It'll probably be tomorrow, Jonah. It'll probably be tomorrow, Danica. Okay.
I sent
Good.
it this morning.
Oh, you got one to me, Okay, Kendall, I'll get that done too. Thanks. All righty. So get out of here and I'll talk to Elena and I'll see Ryder at 10:20. Let's hurry, Elena. We've only got 6 minutes. Let me go. Where are the files?
So I didn't write this. I haven't sent you this last one yet, but I have the one from before.
What? You didn't send me one? I thought you did.
No.
Oh, I must have gotten your. Did I get your senior? That's cool. I don't have Elena.
Yeah, I have the one from the last one we did. I don't know if we went over that one.
I think we did.
But
I think we went over this one, didn't we? Did we go over this one? Can you see that?
I don't see anything on your screen right now.
Let me try and share again. Hang on. Just a second. Where's Elena? Share. You see that?
Yes.
This is Claire Lou's booth, okay? And this was again, see, I mean, this is good, but you can do better. This is another solid response, Elena, but one which still needs to consider the rhetorical situation and connect its analysis more thoroughly to the language under review.
So my question with that is, what exactly do you mean with when you say rhetorical? Like, I need to talk more about the rhetorical situation.
Who's the speaker? A woman. Whom is she speaking to?
Okay.
She's speaking to women.
Yeah.
So right at the get-go, she's establishing the sisterhood. Right at the outset, she's talking about, instead of her speech instills courage, bravery, and a sense of importance, word choice, tone, and realism. That's fine. This will get you that 1 point, probably. But if you said instead that in her speech, Luce draws on the common bond that all women have to instill courage, bravery, and a sense of importance. If you just mentioned the relationship between the audience, or the speaker and writer and the audience, if you mention that in your opening, then when she talks about things like glamorous lifestyles that women, a variety and shift in tone throughout her speech to draw the audience in. Well, she
Right.
does that, and then give me an example of, I'm going to say something I could only say between us girls, and that we women know. Think about it, Elena, that all the stuff she talks about, lipstick, stockings, children, colder homes, different food, these are all distinctly feminine concerns. And so what she's
Right.
doing, if you made more of a point that she was establishing a common ground, a sense of sisterhood with her audiences as a woman speaking to women, I think this would have been a 5 or a 6. She
Okay.
replaces glam with toughness. That's good. Go ahead. What are you going to say?
Yeah, no, that makes more sense. So I just need to be like a little more specific.
Just don't worry about the rhetorical situation. Just think of what's the relationship between the speaker / writer and the audience.
Okay.
And use that to frame all your analysis. It's good. You kind of come toward the end here. She's able to empower women. With our men who are using we, she unites women, and it demonstrates by uniting them in speech. And again, what makes it easy for her to do this? Because they're women and they have shared concerns. It's 1940s after all, and so women are not so yeah. I like the stuff about the sentence structure. Remember the repetition is actually anaphora, but you don't have to use that. So you've got some really good analysis. But it's not analysis that's framed in the context of the rhetorical situation.
Okay.
Just like try to do one now that we've talked through it. Try to write one to FRQ 3, and try to think of the purpose. Okay, get the reader to keep reading. How am I going to do that? What are my obstacles? Well, my obstacles are. People they don't consider themselves scientists. They don't want to, they don't know anything about science. And so she's, trying to elevate her audience from a lay readership to now you're a scientist too. And she's doing this by trying to create an intimacy that books don't normally allow for. Usually when I'm reading a book, there's this unseen author, I don't know who it is. Here, this author is telling me to do things. Look out a window. Now look out again. Now, so it's that kind of intimacy. So that's what I want you to sort of, does that make sense? Sort of?
Yep.
You're doing well. This would be a passing score. I just don't, I want you guys to get 4s and 5s because I think that's going to be more advantageous to you. So, anywho, how are things going otherwise? Pretty well?
They're going okay.
Good.
Yeah,
I'm just sick of this, Elena. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
kind of a little behind in some stuff, but it's okay.
Yeah, you'll make it.
We're getting close.
Good. Well, I'll see you at the meeting, and then I'll see you again on Wednesday. Are you in Gov or not?
Next Wednesday?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not in Gov.
No. So what do you have? What's your exam on Tuesday? Calc?
I have calc, and then on Thursday I have physics, and then the next Monday I have bio, and then lang.
Okay. Yeah, we'll probably get together Wednesday, and then I'll probably have a meeting the following Tuesday just before our exam, just to do some real quick refreshing and some cheerleading, some pep talk, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'll probably, not now, but next weekend, or not like next Friday, a week from Friday, I'll probably throw out a bunch of prompts that you guys can look at with some scored samples. Unfortunately, all the scored samples are scored on the old rubric, which I don't think emphasize the rhetorical situation as much as they seem to be doing now. So
yeah.
why am I recording this? Shoot. Stop recording.